Let's understand how we actually capture the ocean's power, and take a hard look at the line between massive ambition and brutal reality. For literally decades, engineers have looked out at the perpetual motion of the sea and thought, wow, that is just a giant kinetic battery waiting to be tapped. Well, we're moving way past just the theoretical stuff today. In this explainer, we're zeroing in on a very specific mechanical approach, tracing the actual physical steps and looking at the real-world roadblocks that pop up when you try to, tame the ocean. It's an incredible story of engineering ambition slamming right into a wall of environmental reality.
Okay, let's dive into this because this really answers the million-dollar question sitting at the very heart of the whole field. How exactly is electricity generated from ocean waves? I mean, at first glance, it sounds kind of like magic, right? Taking the wild, chaotic energy of a swelling sea and turning it into a nice, stable, grid-ready current. But as we're going to see, it's actually not magic at all. It's purely sequential, brilliant mechanical engineering. We're talking about heavy physical hardware dropped straight into the ocean swell. To really wrap our heads around the genius of this tech, we need to break down the exact chain reaction that kicks off the absolute second a wave rolls through the system.
And this brilliantly illustrates the step-by-step physical chain reaction you need to harvest all that power. So, step 1. It all starts with the floats. As those ocean waves roll in, they physically lift and drop these massive buoyant floats, creating this constant rhythmic up and down motion. That right there, that's your raw kinetic energy. Now moving to step 2, that vertical movement isn't just wasted. It is mechanically directly connected to hydraulic pumps. The actual rising and falling of the floats drives the pumps. Which brings us to step 3. The mechanical action of those pumps is used to generate super highly pressurized water. They are literally squeezing that fluid, building up this immense potential energy. And finally, to pay off step 4, that tightly pressurized water is released and shot out to spin a turbine. And that spinning turbine, that's what actually creates the electricity. It's such a beautifully logical sequence. Wave motion drives the hydraulic pumps, creates pressurized water, spins the turbine, and boom, electricity.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer scale they were going for. I mean, 500 kilowatts? This definitely wasn't just some tiny backyard science fair experiment. Their vision was incredibly modular and just aggressively scalable. Basically, by taking that brilliant 4-step process we just walked through and adding more and more of those wave modules to the initial setup, they managed to push the total capacity up to an incredibly impressive 500 kilowatts. That is a massive chunk of power. It represents a huge leap of optimism and total engineering confidence. It proved that the core mechanics, the floats, the pumps, the turbines, could absolutely be multiplied to capture a genuinely meaningful amount of juice from the ocean's surface. It really paints this amazing picture of a highly scalable, green energy future sitting right off our coastlines.
So, the crucial point is, the ocean always has the final say. Always. Because despite that incredibly elegant engineering, and despite successfully scaling all the way up to that 500 kilowatt capacity we just talked about, this specific project actually went completely inactive after 2014. And you're probably wondering, why? Well, severe operational challenges. We always have to remember that the ocean is, without a doubt, the most hostile environment on Earth for mechanical equipment. I mean, you are dealing with relentless saltwater corrosion eating away at everything, the constant battering of wild, unpredictable storms, marine life literally growing all over your moving parts, and just the sheer unforgiving physical brute force of the water itself. The mechanics work perfectly in theory, and yet even in scaled-up practice, but actually maintaining complex moving parts, like those hydraulic pumps and floats, out in the middle of the open sea, it just proved to be an insurmountable hurdle at the time.
Which really leaves us with this absolutely fascinating paradox to think about. If the mechanical steps to capture wave energy are, at their core, relatively simple and entirely proven, why is the ocean still so incredibly hard to conquer in the long run? This whole story is just a perfect reminder that in engineering, the environment you build for is every bit as important as the machine you build. The quest for wave energy is definitely far from over, but it totally forces us to rethink how we protect our tech from the exact same forces we're trying to harness. If you want to keep diving into these amazing intersections of technology, engineering, and the deep blue sea, make sure you go subscribe to Blue Heart Robotics. They're the original source for this fantastic breakdown. Keep asking those big questions, keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time in our next explainer.